Hey guys, this is Miss White, and it is Monday, June 1st, 2020. So before I start anything, happy Pride Month to everybody. All right. Second of all, before we dive into any content, I would like to address the current situation that is happening all throughout our nation. Um, though I can't go into too much detail with it with you guys, just because it is such a new and sensitive topic, and I'm not actually sure if I'm allowed to talk to you about it. I just wanted to let you know that one, I am a historian. That not only means that I love talking about history, but I also love having conversations about history and how it can relate to current day. So if you guys ever have any questions about the current state of this country, the riots that are happening all throughout the streets of the nation in every major city over George Floyd's death, just know that you can email me for any questions you may have, any clarifications you may need, any research or historical facts that you may want. I am an ally, okay? And this should not be happening in the year 2020 in the United States. So I understand that. Again, if you have any questions about any of that, please email me. I would love to talk to you all about it because it needs to be talked about. Okay. Without further ado, let's go back into the Civil War. Kind of relating current events back to a time in this nation's history where we literally went to war over the topic of slavery. We literally fought each other for it. So kind of relating the two. Last week, we talked about the battles of the Civil War, the major battles. All right. So this week, we are ending everything. All right. We are almost done with the school year. This is your last week of content that I will be giving you. So just follow along with me on this one. Okay. So we're near the end. So as a result of all those battles we talked about yesterday, we have a few things that we need to discuss. First of all, we have the Militia Act of 1862. Remember, the Civil War started in 1861 with the Battle of Fort Sumter. The South won. Okay. Anyway, the Militia Act of 1862 allowed African Americans to participate as soldiers in the Civil War. Okay. This was praised by abolitionists because they saw this as a step closer to equality. However, there is obviously a huge pay discrimination. And I say obviously because, again, this is a time in our nation's history where we went to war over the color of skin, over race, okay, and states' rights, okay. So these soldiers, these African American soldiers, were not getting paid nearly as well as the white soldier, okay. And hopefully this isn't shocking to any of you. Many of them decided to fight for the Union. Yes, most of them had a choice, unless you were in the South and you were a slave and your slave owner made you fight for the South. Just know that obviously the slaves are not on the South side. So even if they were fighting in the Confederate side, they were not trying their best. So anyway, the abolitionists praise this though because look, you can join the military. Again, messed up time in our nation's history. This is a scene from the movie Lincoln, made in 2012 with Daniel Day-Lewis. Phenomenal movie. Granted, I'm a history nerd, so don't take my word for it. But I highly recommend you watch this. This is the opening scene of the movie, and it kind of shows you the impact that President Lincoln had on the Union, right, for the North. Especially with this, all right? As promised last week, we are gonna talk about this. We have the Emancipation Proclamation. I briefly talked about it last week, but this is one of the most important things that came out of the Civil War. Okay, it went into place on January 1st, 1863. All right. It was an executive order issued by President Lincoln, an executive order. Remember, every single president has executive orders. That means that they get to go above seeking approval from Congress to do something, okay? Whether it's to fact check Twitter or just to go above the racist people in Congress to make this happen, okay? This set over 3.5 million slaves free. This freed them. Emancipation means freedom, right? You are free, to free. So this is in proclamation, you're proclaiming something. So this is happening. The freedom. We are setting free people. Okay. Now, obviously, not every state participated in this at first. And when I say that, the South, obviously, they're not looking at this. They didn't see Lincoln as their president, right? Jefferson Davis was their president. So they're like, screw you, Lincoln. I don't have to listen to that. It wasn't until 1865, when the South lost the war, spoiler alert, that the South was forced to free their slaves. They were forced to, all right, to make sure that this was accepted everywhere, right? So it's one thing to proclaim something, but Lincoln made it official. And so he created a constitutional amendment, the 13th Amendment. Okay. And what that 13th Amendment says is, I say it right here: neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Abolishing slavery. Okay. Now, I will say something about this really quick. I realize this video is probably really long, but again, given the current situation of our country, had we been in school, I would have shown you the documentary on Netflix. It is called 13th. Okay, it won several awards, and rightfully so. This documentary, again on Netflix, called 13th, talks about the 13th Amendment and that little itty bitty clause right here, except as a punishment for a crime. So the 13th Amendment documentary talks about the history of it and how over time, yes, we got rid of plantation slavery, but slavery still exists in today's society through imprisonment of African Americans. Again, I would have shown you this in class had we actually been in class. So if you have a Netflix account, which I'm going to just assume here that most of you, if not all of you, do, I highly recommend you watch it. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. All right. Phenomenal in the sense that it's very informational. Of course, it's really sad, but again, can relate to what's happening in our country. The economies during this time here, this is the last thing I want to say in this video. All right. The North, we were outproducing the South because remember, we industrialized. We had the Erie Canal. Remember that song? 15 miles on the Erie Canal. Anyway, right. We produced 3,200 firearms for every 100 the South produced. Y'all can do the math on that. That's an obscene percentage, right? We were literally outproducing them. We had a lot of railroads. We could get our supplies all the way to the North, all the way to the South. All right. The Southern economy could not survive on their own as a nation, LOL. Granted, many Southerners today won't agree with you if you tell them that. They literally could not survive as their own independent country. So they literally fell apart after the Civil War. And we'll talk more about that in the next video. Thanks, guys.